Mesdames et messieurs, chers amis, je vais vous parler de ce lieu, la Défense. La Défense qui va avoir 60 ans, comme une vieille dame, mais qui était très innovante quand elle a été conçue, puisque ça a été la première fois, et d'une certaine manière sans beaucoup de perspective, qu'on construisait sur dalle. Les piétons sur la dalle, les voitures en dessous, c'était le concept à l'origine. Et cet endroit a été en permanence un endroit de transformation, de mutation, tout au long de l'histoire. Et c'est encore le cas aujourd'hui. La révolution du travail, c'est aussi ce qui s'est passé ici, parce que la Défense, pendant très longtemps, jusqu'à encore il y a 5 ans, il y a 10 ans en tous les cas, c'est à 18h, le vendredi soir, tout tombait dans le silence et dans une ville morte pratiquement. Paris-La Défense a su donc engager sa mue, et cette mue va s'accélérer de manière extrêmement forte l'année prochaine, à partir du 1er janvier 2018. Et je voudrais vous l'expliquer, puisque la gouvernance de la Défense, c'est-à-dire sa gestion et son aménagement, vont totalement changer, car elles seront confiées aux collectivités locales, c'est-à-dire aux élus. Et c'est un profond changement de paradigme qu'on ne mesure pas. C'est une sorte de décolonisation, d'une certaine manière, car elle a été conçue comme la mainmise de l'État qui décidait de tout sur ce territoire, et sans même consulter qui que ce soit, sans s'occuper d'autre chose d'ailleurs que de construire. Et même l'urbanisme n'a cessé d'évoluer malgré l'État. Les premières tours étaient toutes sur le même modèle. Elles devaient avoir une base de 42 mètres sur 24 mètres. Elles devaient avoir 100 mètres de haut. Et la deuxième génération de tours devait avoir 100 000 mètres carrés de bureaux. Et c'était comme ça, c'était uniforme. Vous le voyez, l'urbanisme a complètement changé. Ce n'est pas tout, évidemment. La mutation que nous vivons est effectivement une bonne nouvelle pour le développement de la place parisienne, au-delà même du périmètre de la Défense. Au moment où le Brexit ouvre de nouvelles opportunités de développement, nous abordons cette mutation. On l'a vu encore lundi, puisque l'Union européenne a annoncé que la France avait été choisie pour accueillir l'autorité bancaire européenne, et qui est contrainte, à la suite du Brexit, de quitter Londres. Alors, ces transformations, évidemment, permettent de mesurer l'évolution qui se passe. Le baromètre d'attractivité des quartiers d'affaires mondiaux, qui sera présenté dans quelques instants, est un élément de cette transformation. C'est en effet une première mondiale. Jamais on ne s'était interrogé avec une vision globale, internationale, sur ces objets urbains si particuliers. Jamais non plus on ne s'était demandé sur quoi repose aujourd'hui l'attractivité de ces quartiers d'affaires mondiaux. On ne se posait pas la question, on faisait de l'attractivité comme M. Jourdain. Les résultats de cette étude, qui a été réalisée par EU et ULI, sont riches d'enseignements. Pas seulement pour nous, les Français, mais pour tous les quartiers d'affaires dans le monde. Ces résultats font tomber beaucoup d'idées reçues. Très bonne nouvelle d'abord, Paris-La Défense est dans le peloton de tête au plan mondial, puisque nous sommes à la 4e place, après la City de Londres, après Midtown à New York et après Marunouchi à Tokyo. Ce n'est pas si mal, et il y a longtemps qu'on sait que ce quartier d'affaires est le premier quartier d'affaires européen. Cette étude le confirme, mais elle fait mieux que ça, puisque nous avons la 4e place. Le baromètre montre que la force de Paris-La Défense, c'est la quantité et la qualité. La quantité et la qualité, et ça notamment par rapport à Francfort, de l'offre immobilière, qui est le résultat du travail de l'EPADESA, qui a permis de très belles réalisations. Mais ça ne suffit pas. Cette étude dit aujourd'hui ce qu'un quartier d'affaires doit être, c'est-à-dire bien autre chose que métro-boulot, bien plus qu'une zone neutre et sans âme, bien plus que des tours de bureau et simplement des transports. Le critère numéro 1, et c'est important, c'est d'abord la matière grise. Sans les talents, sans les compétences, on ne peut pas être compétitif. Pour attirer et pour garder ces talents, il faut faire la différence par la qualité de vie. C'est la qualité de vie qui compte. L'environnement urbain, les services, les loisirs, l'animation, bref, tout ce qui fait que la vie au travail et après le travail, tout ce qui est agréable. Cette qualité de vie, c'est le second critère d'attractivité. Cette analyse vient conforter les efforts accomplis ces dernières années, en particulier par De facto. Je salue Marie-Célie Guillaume, qui en est l'animatrice, la dirigeante avertie, et qui a fait de ce quartier un quartier où désormais il fait bon vivre. Et ceci est confirmé par toutes les études d'opinion qui ont été faites. Paris La Défense n'est plus un quartier monolithique, uniquement replié sur ses bureaux. Cet espace piéton sans comparaison, je rappelle que c'est 31 hectares, et qui sont à 2 pas de Paris, est devenu un quartier qui vit culturellement et socialement, un quartier innovant, un quartier qui donne à voir de belles choses. Ce que nous voulons pour Paris La Défense, c'est renforcer cette singularité où le grandiose, et nous avons des œuvres d'art qui sont grandioses, côtoient la proximité, où les tours côtoient les jardins potagers, où les start-up côtoient les entreprises du CAC 40. Je suis d'ailleurs très attentif au fait que La Défense devienne un vrai hub d'innovation. Il faut séduire les jeunes entreprises, les convaincre de venir s'installer ici plutôt qu'à Paris. Paris La Défense doit être pensé comme une destination clé en main pour les entreprises françaises ou internationales, qu'il s'agisse de l'immobilier, des transports, du logement, des équipements nécessaires à l'épanouissement de chacun, la culture, les commerces, l'environnement, les écoles. Nous avons par exemple ouvert en 2017 5 sections internationales supplémentaires à Courbevoie, en anglais britannique, en anglais américain, en allemand, en chinois, en arabe et c'est une première en France, en coréen. Paris La Défense doit aussi continuer à profiter d'une position très dynamique sur le marché immobilier et poursuivre l'investissement public dans le quartier, avec de nouveaux équipements dans la lignée de la U Arena, avec de grands projets de voirie, de transport et d'aménagement urbain. Et puis demain, Paris La Défense aura un rôle majeur à jouer dans la métropole du Grand Paris. Cette future métropole, qui s'apprête à faire l'objet d'un grand débat national, devra regarder beaucoup plus loin que la capitale, beaucoup plus loin que la vision étriquée d'une ville-musée qu'elle tente à devenir. Il faut une métropole qui épouse les contours de l'Île-de-France, région dont la grande variété des paysages, des activités, des populations et des bassins de vie fait toute la richesse. Il faut construire une métropole à la fois ambitieuse, solidaire et équilibrée, qui soit en première ligne dans la compétition internationale. Pour cela, il faut qu'elle soit dotée de compétences stratégiques comme les transports ou le tourisme. Enfin, la France, au travers de Paris La Défense, a toutes les qualités pour animer un réseau international des quartiers d'affaires qui soit digne de ce nom. Au moment où nous voyons surgir une nouvelle forme de concurrence, comme la station F de Xavier Niel, que j'admire, mais qui doit aussi nous inspirer. Il s'agit de créer non pas une compétition entre les places mondiales, mais une émulation collective qui nous fasse avancer, partager les savoirs et les bonnes pratiques, encourager l'innovation, la prospective, comme le fait Revolution at Work. Et elle l'a démontré, je crois, par les débats qui ont eu lieu ces 2 derniers jours. Voilà, en quelques mots, la reconquête territoriale que nous allons poursuivre. L'alignement des planètes est favorable. Il ne s'agit plus que d'accélérer, puisque nous savons désormais ce que nous devons faire.
Hello, good morning, everyone. Maybe first, I'm going to speak English because what I'm going to present is the result of a study which has been conducted by an international team. So, and the panel that will follow, the panel discussion that will follow, will be in English. So, excuse me. I hope you can understand me. By the way, otherwise you have the translation, which should be available. So it's a pleasure to be with you and to disclose this morning the results of what I'm sure is very much awaited, the results of the attractiveness of the world-class business district. Maybe just a few words to start about me and my friend Lisette. So my name is Vincent RAUFAST. I'm working for EY Advisory. I'm in a team that help companies in their international location strategies and working also on the attractiveness and competitiveness of local governments, countries and regions. And here's my friend Lisette van Doorn, who is the CEO of ULI Europe, so the Urban Land Institute, who has co-produced this study with us. There are plenty of attractiveness studies, including EY studies about the attractiveness of countries and regions. But so far, there was nothing about the attractiveness of business districts themselves. So 1 year ago, Paris La Défense came to us with this idea to do the first assessment independently, so that's why they chose EY and ULI, first assessment of the attractiveness of business districts. And we are very happy to show you in 15 minutes, 15 slides, the result of a hard-working year. It was 1 year of work, and I'm going to present this right now. So let's start with the objectives. So we wanted to do 3 things with this study. The first thing was to measure, to try to identify, understand the expectations and needs of business districts users. So what are the attractiveness factors? What are the most important factors for the users when it comes to the attractiveness of business districts? So for that, we did an online survey worldwide of 230, to be very specific, 226 users and real estate professionals across the world who are members of the ULI network globally. The second thing that we wanted to do is, once we had understood or better understanding of the expectations and needs, was to measure the actual performance of business districts. So for that, we have translated all the location criteria into specific metrics, indicators that are objective, quantitative, and comparable. So we have 40 of them in total. And we collected this information for all the business districts of our panel. So typical indicators are like the number of employees, qualified employees, the number of headquarters from the Fortune Global 500, and so on. So indicators that are available, independent and comparable for all the business districts. The third thing that we did was we wanted to understand what are the future or the trends shaping the future of business districts. So for that, we had individual in-depth interviews with 35 world-class experts, as we call them, from the ULI international network and from the EY network as well. So people, dealing with international location strategies all the time, with economic development plans, with attractiveness strategies for countries, regions, and cities, of course. So a word about the sample of business district that we have selected. So it was hard to select, to have a representative sample. The first constraint or idea that we had is we wanted to have a global coverage. So we wanted not only to address the typical, very well-known business district, but also to cover the 5 continents. And then to select them, we worked with our group of experts on a combination of threshold criteria, like minimum size of office space, like the number of employees, like a high concentration of business services. The urban shape was very important as well, especially the presence of high-rise buildings. So that was very important to select. So combining all these different threshold criteria, we came with this list of business districts for this first edition. Of course, we hope there will be additional editions or updates in the coming years, and we'll be able to adapt the scope if needed. So this is the first very key finding about our research. This is showing the results of the attractiveness criteria as seen by business district users and real estate professionals. So when we interview them about what makes a business district attractive, what is the most important factor for you, we have 70% of them who tells us that access to talent, the availability, the capacity to attract and retain talent is the most important thing for us. So it's really outstanding. It's way ahead of the rest of the criteria, as you can see. Talent is a very simple word, but it's actually covering a very complex reality, because when you look at talent, when you talk to business district users, you understand that we're talking about a great variety of skills, from top executives to start-uppers, entrepreneurs, researchers, business, creative class. And also we are talking about very different generations with different expectations as well, and living in different places. So it's hard, to deal with all these different type of targets for business districts, but still it's the #1 criteria for them, most important for 70%. Then you have the quality of the urban environment, which is deemed very important by 47% of our panel of respondents. So this relates to the attractiveness for talent, the access to talent, because of course today, and Lisette will tell you about that, business district is much more than a working place. So most of the business districts around the world are really trying to develop as they say, work, live and play environment, something which is open outside of business hours and attractive for employees and individuals. Then we have the global influence, so it's, let's say, the hubness or the hub capacity of these business districts, including, of course, internationally. Business opportunities, so proximity to markets, clients and partners, which is deemed very important by 43% of our panel of respondents. And then we have 2 other criteria, which are the cost competitiveness, so cost here, and the availability of high-quality offices. The fact that they are seen as very important by only 35% and 14% of our respondents does not mean it's not important. Actually, when you talk to all the experts that we've been talking with, you understand that it's deemed as very important because by only this share of respondents, because it's actually a prerequisite. It's the basics, okay? So you need to have that, that's the minimum. When we talk about the cost competitiveness, also, we need to have in mind that we're not talking about the simple rental cost levels. We're talking about a much more complex way to address cost. Today, business district users are really addressing these questions as a value for money, so they are ready to pay the price as long as they get the right value for it. And you have plenty of other criteria that are taken into account, like the optimization of the office space, like the location itself, like the quality of offices that will deeply impact the capacity of the companies to retain and attract talents. So that's it. And now I'm going to share with you, I'm going to go through some of the key factors that we just discussed. and share with you the rankings that we have elaborated based on the indicators that we have collected and that we have identified with our group of experts. So let's start with the number one, so access to talent. Access to talent, remember, is the most important factor for 70% of our respondents. So here you have clearly, with a very clear domination, London business district, so the City and Canary Wharf. Then comes Midtown in New York, and then you have Paris La Défense ahead of the financial districts and the Loop in Chicago. So how do these top performers make the difference? Number one, they are scoring quite well on all the indicators that we've used to measure the access to talent performance, but they are standing out for some of them. And for instance, London is clearly making a difference on the concentration of top times higher education universities. This is the THE that you're reading here. They have 6 of them in London out of the top 200, which is by far the biggest, the largest concentration of these universities. Midtown is, for some of us, surprisingly, number 3 because of its ranking on the Transportation and Mobility Index, which is seen as a very important indicator by users to attract these talents. And you have Paris La Défense. Paris La Défense is doing quite well on all these indicators for access to talent, and doing quite well also on the share of its population with a university degree, which is 46%, if I remember correctly. But it's facing very tough competition on these specific criteria. And for instance, in London, they have this share of the population with a university degree is 56%. And it's also 47%, just like Paris La Défense, in New York Midtown. So tough competition, but still, you know, some criteria, indicators where they make the difference. Then the quality of urban environment. So second most important factor, the quality of urban environment is seen as very important for 47% of our panel of experts. Here you have at the top of the ranking Midtown, the Loop in Chicago, Downtown Core in Singapore, and interestingly, Bankenviertel in Frankfurt. So again here, how do they make a difference? Scoring well on all the indicators, but you know, standing out for some of them. Let's remember that the Loop in Chicago is making a difference on cultural and sports amenities. Downtown Core is in Singapore is ranking number 3 on the quality of life. So this is extracted from the quality of life index from Mercer. And Bankenviertel, for instance, is scoring very well on the availability or the presence of green spaces. They have in the area of the business district in Bankenviertel, they have 35% of it, which is made of green spaces. So let me move now to the proximity to market, clients, and partners. So this is the business, what you saw as the business opportunities in the chart at the beginning of the presentation. Seen as very important for 43% of the respondents. And here you have Marunouchi in Tokyo, number 1, then Midtown, number 2, and Chaoyang in Beijing, number 3. Marunouchi is clearly making a difference with the very high concentration, by far, the highest concentration of Fortune Global 500 headquarters. In the city of Tokyo, they have 37 of them. And in the business district, Marunouchi itself, it's 18, which is much more than the rest of the competition. Midtown is making a difference with the metropolitan GDP, which is directly impacting the performance of the business district. And Chaoyang is scoring well on the level of investment in R&D. So they dedicate 6% of the local GDP to R&D and innovation. They invested in R&D and innovation. So that explains why Chaoyang is at the top of the list on this one as well. Maybe just a clarification. Every time for each of these rankings, we are using a mix of metropolitan and very local indicators. So we are sure to capture the whole reality of the different dynamics and what matters at the local level. So if I move to the availability of high quality offices, here you have downtown core in Singapore and Paris La Défense number 1 and 2, so at the very top of the list. And then we have the city number 3. So how come Singapore and Paris are number 1? This one, well, they are really making a difference on the expansion plans that they have. In downtown core, the expansion plans are 25% of the existing office spaces, and it's 22% in Paris La Défense. Besides, Paris La Défense is also benefiting from its scoring on the Green Building Performance Index. It's the number 1 of the panel. And the reason why you have the city in London here, even though they don't have so much expansion capacity, but simply because they are currently the largest business district in Europe. It's about 8.6 million square meters, and it's the first of Europe. So having said that, I will take you to the general ranking. So when you combine all these indicators, when you take into account, when you apply the weightings in terms of levels of priority that you saw from the beginning, so 70% for access to talent, 47% for the quality of urban space, and so on. When you combine all that, you get the final ranking, which has the city from London at the very top, Midtown number 2nd, Marunouchi number 3, and Paris La Défense number 4, second in Europe, ahead of Canary Wharf on the financial districts in New York. So I'm not going to comment in detail this one. I'm going to hand over to my friend Lisette, who will tell you now about the trends shaping the future of business districts.
Thanks, Vincent. Thank you very much for the opportunity to present this research here today. As Vincent pointed out, we've been working on this for a year. So it's really great to be here finally to present this. I will talk a bit about the trends, and Vincent already touched on some of them as they've come out so clearly on what we've seen throughout the research, first analyzing which business districts, then looking at the different criteria that we would assess as we see a big change on what drives the success of business districts globally. I'll just take a few minutes before we can go to the panel discussion. And well, this is not a surprise. What you've seen already in quality of the urban environment came already out as the second largest, most important indicator. But what we see is the connection between attracting and retaining talent, and this one is almost one-on-one. To be able to attract and retain talent, there needs to be a vibrant, livable is very important, and dynamic environment, where in the past it was only about high-quality offices, which is still important as we've seen, but it's moving quickly. And quality of the urban environment is about amenities, is about retail, is about restaurants, is about being a lively environment throughout the day, not only during office hours, but also later on. And maybe even most importantly, it's about residential. It's about nice places to live. You want to be there. And for many business districts, that's one of the major changes that's being made. And of course, in addition to the connectivity, which has always been important. And also for residential, it's not only about high-end living, luxury residential, it's also about affordable housing. And that's where we've seen that for some business districts that's still difficult to figure out how to do that. And placemaking is also about organizing events. And I think Chicago The Loop can talk about that in detail, because we've seen a lot of interesting examples there. What we've also seen is that business districts trying to open themselves up to startups and becoming places to be. While it's been traditionally been the areas where the big corporates, business, financial services were located, they're looking at ways how to get more startups. But what we've seen is that ULI has done other work on this in the past, looking at the impact of technology startups on the real estate sector, not only in terms of tenant, what do they want as a tenant, but also in terms of how they are disrupting traditional business models like Airbnb, for example. And one of the most important things, besides, of course, high-tech equipment, the ability to grow fast, but also shrink when it's needed, flexibility in the contract, adaptable workspaces, the surroundings are key. And again, that's not where the traditional business district has been strongest on. An interesting example, for example, is London, where you have the city, and right next to it we have Shoreditch, which was not developed as such. It was just kind of an old abandoned industry warehouses. The good thing was that it was close to the city, so close to the funders. And once the city kind of got a view on that, they started to adopt it, and now it's London Tech City. But that's something that's been really interesting. Someone once said, work has left the building. It's about the environment that attracts startups. So, and what we think actually, it's that co-working spaces, and my French is not so good, but I think that's what we just talked about in the previous session, can build the connection between those corporates and more startups, and also bringing in that interesting environment that they want to be in. Interesting examples there, and it's more about kind of space as a service. It's not about renting square meters. There are some interesting examples. I think here you have next door. We talked about WeWork a lot. In London you have Second Home, and it's almost a second home, where kind of innovative business startups are coming together. There are strong selection criteria for new startups to come in, because they are so key. What they're looking at is to create that cross-fertilization between businesses. And what's even happening there is that big corporates put their innovation teams in Second Home, away from, say, the rest of their company, to really get into an environment which is looking to innovate, which is creative. I think EY is even based in Second Home, Santander as well. And I think that's what we're going to see more, and kind of how to incorporate startups and that creative scene more into traditional business districts. And we see, in what you see, London is the biggest co-working market. We see huge demand for that in the next 5 years, and also already more than 9,000 square meters of flexible space in La Défense. What we've also seen is that there's quite a big difference between perception of people and what we found to be the ranking, and based on the results and the analysis we did. On the left side you see the perception. So in that survey and during those interviews that Vincent talked about, we asked people for a ranking, of course based on what the business districts they knew best. We see some similarities, but we also see quite some, and those are mainly for the most well-known business districts like London, the City, New York, Midtown. But then in other ones, and especially for Paris La Défense, the ranking based on perception by users is very different from the ranking based on the results. So there's obviously a key role here for building a strong image for La Défense, and also the marketing of business districts. It's about what do you have to add to your audience, not only being the office users. And then we talked a lot about the future, because basically we are in an era of massive change at the moment. We feel we've only scratched the surface in how technology is changing our human behavior. What we want to live, work and play all at the same time. We want more to share space instead of own it. We want more common space and green space and public space than necessarily private space. So, and how is that for business districts? How do you prepare for the future? If you start planning expansions or new developments now, and you're only going to start construction in maybe 10 years' time. One of the examples we looked at was the Jurong district in Singapore, where they start to plan for a completely new business district that is connected by a high-speed rail between Kuala Lumpur and Singapore. So how do you cope with the unknown, with the knowns, unknowns, and the unknowns? And that's very interesting and also very challenging at the same time. And I think that can be interesting to talk about later. And that's with that I would like to end. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lisette. Thank you, Vincent, for this brilliant presentation. Now we have a really comprehensive and clear understanding of the main drivers of a business district now and in the coming years, in the future. And we were thinking that the best way to talk about business district was probably to give the floor to people that who manage and run business district. So we are really pleased and really honored to have today with us foreign delegations. They had a really long trip to join us today. So please welcome on stage Miss Sofia Barunushkina, which is Business Development Manager from Moskva City Management Company, Moscow, Russia. We have also Mr. Liang Guo, which is Executive Vice Director of Beijing CBD Administration Committee, China, and his interpreter. We have Miss Mary Elizabeth Ranking, coming from Chicago Loop Alliance. We have another guest from China, Miss Phyllis Lee, Deputy Director of Planning from the Government of Hong Kong. And of course, we have our host today, Miss Marie-Célie Guillaume, who is CEO of Paris La Défense, which is manager and urban planner of the main business district in Europe. So thank you, all of you, for being with us today. We are once again really pleased and really honored to welcome you here in La Défense. So you had a long trip to join us, and maybe all the people here want to know what is your business district and where do you come from. So I would like to start with a general overview of your business district, and maybe if you can tell us what makes the uniqueness of your business district. Maybe we can start with you, with Moscow. You have a mic just right here.
Is it working? Yeah. I'm happy to be here to share our ideas and represent Moscow City on this great La Défense district. So we are rather young compared to other business districts. It was conceived only in 1992 in Moscow. Moscow, as you know, the capital of Russia, and now our population is about 12 million people. And Moscow nowadays is a gate to Russia business and also to CIS countries business. But we are developing fastly, so nowadays 10 high skyscrapers are finished and 16 are under construction, and hopefully by 2020 we will have about 2 million square meters of space, mostly office, but also residential, retail, concert hall, some cultural. And our daily population is now 150,000 people, and this number is growing. So now we are focusing on public space development, as our buildings are already high class. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Mr. Guo, same thing for me. What makes the uniqueness of Chaoyang, the main business district of Beijing?
好，谢谢主持人。我来自北京市朝阳区这个 CBD。刚才通过这个发布的内容也大家对 CBD 有一个初步的了解。
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, I'm very glad and very honored to be here and to represent the Chaoyang district, which is the Beijing capital of China. And I will share the experience with both of us here, our experience of the growth.
北京 CBD 呢，从 2000年开始建设，到现在已经17年的发展。目前按照规划，总的建筑规模1000万平米，现在已经建设完成了800万平米。
We have built this business district since year 2000, and during those more than 10 years, we have built more than 1 million kilometers of the planning, which will have realized more than 85% of our project. So we are still growing.
目前已经形成了具备国际高端的商务服务、国际金融以及文化创意产业这个聚集的一个区域，包括刚才提到的500强企业，也是北京市最集中的区域。
The most famous international companies, corporation, 500 premier corporation, which we have attracted to our business district, which are all those foreign investment, financial buildings, are all our strategies, also in our building of our strategies of our center.
同时，根据北京市的总体规划要求，也是CBD 作为北京的一个国际交往的一个重要窗口，将来呢也将成为北京连接这个世界，包括跟各个商务区交流的一个非常良好的一个平台。
As the policy or the political of the China Beijing government, we have all those planning to build the bridge to other countries, other districts for the cultural exchanges and financial investments. All those exchanges are those projects we are holding on. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. So, Miss Rankin, I've been once in Chicago, in the center of Chicago. It's a wonderful place. I really loved it. So can you tell us a little bit more about Chicago Loop?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for having me, first of all, and for including us in this report and in this discussion today. I don't know if many of you have visited the Loop in Chicago, but we are traditionally the central business district. We represent about 88 blocks and 100 million square feet of office space. So it is primarily a district for about 300,000 workers who come downtown every single day. But in addition to that, we have 60,000 students attending 22 universities. We've got 30,000 residents, and it grows by the day, and about 1.5 million people who walk up and down our flagship retail space every single day. So we are a mixed-use district. We're very fortunate to be surrounded by Lake Michigan and the Chicago River, which have been programmed to really add some extra vibrancy and dynamic leisure environments for exactly what we've been talking about this week. I hope you have the opportunity to go to Chicago sometime. It's a great place to be. We're the downtown management agency, so Chicago Loop Alliance looks after all of the outside space. We're really investing heavily in this kind of public realm, place-making kind of initiative. So we are starting to see that these trends that are coming out of the report are heavily relevant to what Chicago Loop is seeing. That people, will always have a need for these traditional office spaces, but more and more there is a blend of work, live, and play. And so the Loop and the city have done a really good job about trying to stay abreast of these trends and make it an exciting place to be for all of those different markets.
Thank you. Miss Lee, Hong Kong is one of the most successful business districts in Asia, and also one of the most expensive. Yeah. I heard that your business district is so successful that you are building a brand new one. So can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Hi. I'm Phyllis. I'm a professional town planner and the Deputy Director of Planning, so I would concentrate on the planning part. The CBD in Hong Kong actually is the traditional one, is in Central. This has been earlier part of the development in the territory. Right now, I think from an international perspective, the high-rise CBD is actually the icon of Hong Kong because the CBD by the harbour with a very fantastic skyline. For this traditional CBD, I think there are maybe 3 unique characteristics. One, Hong Kong is very small, so our CBD is also very compact. It's covering only 170 hectares with a total of around 2.2 million meter square office GFA, and then all of them are grade A CBD offices. And also every day we have 260,000 employees coming to the CBD. And so the first one is about compact. The other one is about accessibility and connectivity. It's very conveniently connected by 3 MTR lines, and also very conveniently connected to the airport. It's only 25 minutes from the airport railway station, also within the CBD. The third point is about it's very vibrant, round-the-clock vibrancy with mixed uses, and also supporting retail, dining, entertainment, and also cultural heritage, because this is the earlier part of the city, so we have a lot of the heritage buildings. And it is very well sought after. That's reflected by the very high rental. Just quote some figure, the rental can be as high as US $150 per square meters. And because of the shortage of supply, we are going towards new directions. There are basically 2. One is to create CBD2 across the harbour in the Kowloon East area. We call it Energizing Kowloon East Initiative. That is by redeveloping or renovation of the high-rise factory buildings and turn them into business buildings, hotels, etc. The other one is releasing land from the ex-Kai-Tak airport and provide new sites for tendering. The third approach is not just, it's not transformation, it's creating a new artificial island in between Hong Kong Island, the city center, and Lantau, that is the growth area with the airport, so that we think we aim to create a new generation CBD which is smart, green, and resilient. And that's how our planning strategy is going to go to cater to make Hong Kong being a sustainable, smart, and green, and also very importantly, competitive CBD.
Thank you, Ms. Lee. Marie-Célie, Guillaume, so you're the CEO of Paris La Défense, which is both managing and a real estate developer of the neighborhood that welcome all of us today. It's a great day for La Défense. We just learned that La Défense is the 4th best, most attractive business district in the world. How do you react to that?
I'm very, very, very happy and very proud, I must say, because as the survey also showed, there's a big difference between the perception and the reality. And ourselves, we often have not such a good perception of ourselves. We see what has to be changed and what has to be made better, and we don't see enough what we have, the strengths we have. And so I'm very proud that we are 4th. It also shows that with the efforts we have been doing in the last recent years to bring life to this area, to make that there are more restaurants, concerts, sport events, all those things that are necessary today, that we can't have just an area with offices. It doesn't work. And the companies themselves, they ask to have an area where their employees can do other things than just work, and can also go and work in other conditions, in other environments. It's a long-term program, because you can't change a place like La Défense just like that. It's difficult, it's long, it's supposed planning, and it's supposed also to anticipate changes that we don't even know exactly what the changes are going to be, the changes in the uses, but we are working on it, and I'm very happy to see that the results can already be felt. I just want to welcome my international colleagues and to thank them for being here. And I also want to welcome André Poulain from Montreal. I don't know why he's not sitting with us, but he's sitting there. And thank you for being here. You were here last year already. And welcome, of course. And I hope you'll be able to participate in our discussion.
Thank you, Marie-Célie. So precisely on this point, I would like you to react to the report just presented. We saw on the report that the life you can bring into public space is really an important matter to get your business district really attractive. So maybe Ms. Ranking, you can tell us more concrete example. How do you give a life to a neighborhood that has been conceived some years ago, probably only for work? How would you turn it into a destination, into a cultural, touristical, and not just only an economical destination?
Yes, so we also have a bit of a gap between the perception and the reality of the Chicago Loop. I think particularly for people who used to visit there or those who live around the area, there is this impression that it's only open for business. It's dark and dusty and closed down after 5 p.m. and on the weekends, which is not the case at all. We have many green spaces, the river and the lake, as I mentioned before. Our theater district is downtown, world-class arts and cultural institutions. So we have a lot of rich amenity for people to enjoy. We just need to be able to communicate that better. I think part of that is going backwards a few steps, making sure that the area has the perception of being nice and safe and clean and a welcoming environment for people to want to even be down there in the first place. That's something that Chicago Loop Alliance is investing heavily in, is making sure that from everything that the street lighting feels appropriate for people to be walking around at certain times of day. We have a team of welcome ambassadors who patrol up and down to make sure that everybody from visitors have somebody to approach and ask directions or recommendations. They also help with any sort of issues on the streets and getting people into the right sort of social services and things like that. So that's kind of the first step. We've implemented a program, and I think Lisette started to talk about this, called Activate. Chicago, if many of you, if you've ever visited, we have a very iconic part of the downtown infrastructure called the alley. And the alley is really, its function is where trash and electricity and all of the sort of behind the scenes things go, but it helps keep our pedestrian ways in a really kind of nice way. We started to use these alleyways to try to change that perception, particularly for the downtown workforce, to want to stay a little bit longer within the loop after they've left the office for the night. It really started as a concept during the economic downturn about 7 years ago, when vacant retailers gave that impression of it being kind of a sad place to be. So we activated these empty units to bring art and music and vitality to the downtown area. Well, once the economy started to turn upwards and retailers occupied those spaces again, the program was so popular that we moved it to this alleyway space. It is a really, I wish I had a picture to show you, because amongst all these skyscrapers and the trains running and this beautiful kind of lit architecture, we're throwing a party of music and local art and lots of beer and wine, of course, and all of the things that help people kind of have a look at their surroundings in a little bit of a different way. There's an economic impact component to this as well. So if businesses are staying open later for people to enjoy, people are spending more, they create memories, they talk about these places in a more positive light. So this is just kind of one of the examples that the Chicago Loop has implemented to try to help change this perception and drive people into the area in sort of underutilized times and spaces.
Marie-Célie, almost every day something is going on the public space of La Défense. I know you have a really intense policy in order to foster creativity, to foster sharing, to foster fun in the public space of La Défense. Can you tell us a little bit more about what are you doing concretely to give a life to this neighborhood?
Well, if you go out today in the public space, you will see a tent where all this week you have free concerts, which is a music festival of chorus. That's an example. And just behind it, you have a whole area that's being built right now for the Christmas market, which is an important event here in La Défense, very traditional. And there's a contrast between the modernity of the district and the tradition of Christmas, which is important. And the people love going there to have lunch and go shopping. Those are just two examples. But I wanted to react on what has just been said, on saying that we, to bring these new services in the area, we had the constraint that we don't have so much space. We have the public space, but it's outside, and it's not always very easy when it's cold and rainy and windy. So we are thinking of transforming underneath the pedestrian area. During the way La Défense was built is that underneath the pedestrian area, you have all the transportation network, you have the metro, you have the cars, you have the parkings, you have the technical, energy and all those stuff. And the garbage, that all those things that we don't want people to see so much. And so underneath the pedestrian area is not very qualitative and it's not attractive at all. But we also have empty spaces that have never been used, and we have imagined that we are going to use those spaces and transform them to bring new activities, new services in a different kind of environment. It's an underground environment, and we're going to keep it as an underground environment with its ambiance, a particular ambiance. And for instance, we just transformed the level of our parking. We have the biggest area of parking spots in Europe here in La Défense, and we all know that the use of the car will in the years coming is going to decrease. And so what will we do with these parkings? And so we just transformed one level of parking into a new spot where we can go and have a drink, have some food, work. There's exhibitions, you have concerts, and it's 6 months ago it used to be a parking. So that's an example of what we're trying to bring to have new destinations, and so a new public will be more tempted to come to La Défense.
Thank you. Another insight of the report, Sophia, was about real estate. It seems surprisingly that real estate appears at the bottom of concerns for business district users. It doesn't mean, as Vincent said, that it's not important, but it seems that it's more now like a prerequisite. If you don't have it, you are not just in the scope of business district investors and users. So does it mean that it's maybe a little bit provocative, but does it mean that we should stop investing into buildings and put just the money into public space?
Yeah, for years, I think Moscow City was mostly focused on development. As you've said, it's a prerequisite, so we needed to get an adequate mass of office, of business buildings to be available as an office space, to have an image of a business district. But now we are still focused on attracting investments because we have many unfinished buildings, and we still dream about them to be finished, to be focused on the public spaces of the district, of the free spaces. But as we can see that nowadays owners and management companies and ourselves, we see that we can be much more efficient, nice, if we can develop some additional services, additional public space, additional experience to our visitors, for our residents. So due to climate, maybe we mostly focused not on outdoor public space, but on indoor. So first of all, we've reached the Museum of Moscow City. I don't know if there are museums of La Défense here, but we wanted to develop a strong image of Moscow City as a place with its brand and with its history, as we don't have any heritage buildings like in Hong Kong. So we needed to rethink them. We needed to imagine them for people, for our new strong brand. And then we are developing a second museum, an art museum, and it will sprawl in the streets. Streets will be sprawled with modern art from this museum. Moreover, we had a skating ring on the 80th floor, very high. And nowadays, I think we can focus on outdoor activities. We've had a sort of pilot project of big public place, city square this summer. But surprisingly, we thought that office residents will be happy to use it, to visit it. But no, it attracted mostly people from other districts, other visitors. But still, it's an experience, and still we think that was valuable for our brand as a place where you can not only work, but you can live, but you can spend some time nicely. So we are trying to be balanced with investments in public places, in spending time, and of course in office, as we need to get bigger, stronger, and attract more companies and residents.
Thank you. Miss Lee, Sophia just said business district to be effective, to be attractive, they need to be balanced. There is a need for a mixity of users between corporation, between inhabitations, between schools. How does it work in Hong Kong? How do you ensure this mixity of users? Is it just about putting together in the same place schools, offices, and inhabitations, or is it a little bit more than that?
Hong Kong is a very cosmopolitan city, and then we attracted quite a number of high quality tenants from over the world. I think to these people, I think the most important point is about the opportunities, and the location will give them a lot of opportunities because Hong Kong is a gateway to a lot of other countries, and also especially with the fast growth of China. So it is a lot of regional headquarters have been taking place in Hong Kong. And in terms of the attractive environment to them, I think livability is important. Livability means that you have a variety of housing choices. For example, right behind Central uphill, we have the mid-level. This is a middle class to high class housing area for the higher end expectorate. But then we have a number of other choices. For example, there are other types of housing along the MTR stations. And also for those who really like to have countryside living, then we have outlying islands. We have the southern part of the island. And also there are international schools provision, and also leisure and recreation outlets. For example, although we are small, we have 40% of our land being country parks, whereby you can go hiking and also leisure. And also, Hong Kong is also very accessible to other, especially the Southeast Asia. So many of these talents or the workers then or expectorates, they can spend the holiday very easily outside of Hong Kong. In terms of local planning, surely we need to have a balanced strategy that is to position all these land uses in appropriate mixes and also density. And also, just now you talk about public space. Public space is also very important. And it's very important to, public space, first of all, the streets and the circulation spaces are very important public space. Because in CBD, the important part is about face-to-face contact and also mobility. The other one is about the park. And in Central, we are about to complete a very large-scale waterfront park by making use of the land above an underground strategic highway corridor. That would become a significant feature to make our CBD a green and blue CBD in that sense.
Thank you. Mr. Guo, I've been in Beijing 2 months ago in September in Chaoyang in your business district. It's dense and you have a really fast-growing population. We were talking about balancing business district. How do you ensure this mixity of users in order to ensure the attractivity of your business district?
应该说从北京 CBD 的开始建设之前的规划研究就开始学习国外的一些成功的一些经验和理念。
We have since the beginning of the construction, we have learned a lot the design, the artistic from the other CBD district international. So we have from the start, we have learned and to work from that experience.
尤其是在这个规模的这个控制和功能的设置上，我们现在的这个建筑规模的比例呢是相对比较合理，既包含办公、商业、酒店、文化娱乐设施等等。这些比例呢现在已经初步形成了50%的办公面积，25%的酒店，25%的商业娱乐文化设施，这么一个比例，使得这个北京 CBD 商务区呢，不管是在白天或者是在夜晚，都是具有一个非常有活力的这么一个区域。
To control the proportion of this area, we have built those 50% of the buildings office and 25% of those hotels and 25% of all those commercials and the shopping. So we can use all those area 24 hours by day to make the activity of this area be more alive.
同时呢，我们也是非常注重这个绿色的理念，不管是在这个硬件建设还是在软件的环境上面，都进行着相对于其他这个区域的这个绿色的一个提升，包括现在绿色建筑LEED的认证的这个规模也占到北京市的20%，达到了近200万平米。
So for all those green spaces, we are also very concerning about this point, and we have the more than 2 million kilometers of the green spaces, and which have those certification of the LEED. LEED certifications, and all those planification of the green spaces are the big concern of our government.
在LEED楼宇这个认证的基础上，北京 CBD 呢现在也在中国已经成为第一个LEED ND 认证的区域，也就是整个区域的这个绿色建筑。这个区域呢现在是正在建设过程当中，已经取得了这个预认证，规模呢也是200万平米的建设规模。
Based on the certification of the LEED, and we also increasing the certification of the LEED and
LEED ND.
ND, all those certification are in the of all built all those spaces with the guarantee of all our guarantees of the green spaces and of our government required which.
所以随着这个北京 CBD 的建设和发展，我们也是逐步的认识到，这个区域虽然吸引到了非常多的跨国公司以及500强企业，但是呢，随着这个人对于健康、对于这个幸福感的这种进一步的提升，所以我们在这个不管是绿色方面也好，还是从文化方面也好，还是从生活的便利性也好，都在进行着一些改造和改善。
More and more we realize that not only we need all those spaces for building all those places for people who living, and also we need to fulfill their needs, their living requirement, their environment, all those needs of the basic standing, all those needs which to reach the international standings, all those are we concerning, and we are more and more working on this and to try to reach in the high level.
所以今天我们看到拉德芳斯主导的全球CBD 吸引力的这个报告的颁布，也对于我们北京 CBD 对照其他先进的或者说更加有这个创新思路的一些 CBD 的一些成功做法，也值得我们去这个学习和对于今后的 CBD 的整体的提升都有一个非常好的一个作用。
So for the our experience, we are very appreciate and thank for the La Défense, all those we are invited here and to reference about the report which we have seen the experience which of all those CBD districts, their experience, their innovation ideas are all we have really learned and we were working on it.
Thank you.
谢谢。
Thank you, Mr. Go. Another major insight of the report is the innovation economy. How business districts tend to shift into the innovation economy. And I would like to know, maybe it's a question for all of you, what are your initiatives to turn your business district into an innovative place? How do you attract and retain startups and innovation players in your business district? Miss Lee, for instance.
Maybe I gotta go first. I think we all know that the global mega trend is that basically innovation technology will be the drivers of future economic growth. That means we have to incubate the next generation of innovators and also the startup. In Hong Kong, we have this incubation program in the Science Park as well as in the Cyberport to spur creative industries as well as innovation technology. In terms of business districts, I think the Kowloon East area that I referred earlier on can provide alternative lower cost options for these new startups to set up their business. But at the same time, there are also, within the private markets, there are initiatives to provide for co-working spaces. I think there are a few hundred of these co-working spaces in Hong Kong, partly provided by the private developers. These are not just lower cost co-working spaces. They also provide the ecosystem for them to network and to have mentorship program, for example, how to do business registration, how to network, how to get better connection with the clients, etc. And there are also the reasons, other than the private sector initiative, there's also the recent government policy initiative to ask that certain renovation project or new land sale project would include a certain percentage of creative spaces or startup spaces so that they can have more options and easier to get into the market. And on top of this, one of our departments called Invest Hong Kong, every year they hold a very large-scale conference for the startup from overseas and also from Hong Kong. And then that would give them a very good opportunity to network international clients and also local or international investors. This is very important to them. I hope we are going in the right direction.
Thank you. Sophia, is Box Varsity an attractive place for startups?
I think that historically startups didn't try to be a part of business district, but we are not working now on it, but we are in the beginning of this pace. But I can mention two initiatives that we have in Moscow City, which in our opinion can contribute to innovations and small companies. First of all, when we are looking for suppliers, we are focused on finding local startups and small companies, for example, for our digital projects, for our navigation system, for our parking system. We're trying to find new companies and give them new routes so they can say that I've developed a big project for the Moscow City. So now they have this valuable experience and we are, a soil for them to develop. And secondly, as we are using widely our digital instruments, we are now launching an application for Moscow City, which will be, sort of searching of networking of your business partners, of employers, to lower the distance. It will be look like a business Tinder, so you can find someone from the building right close to go to lunch to chat, and it will take minutes, despite of traditional HR models like this.
Thank you. I like the business Tinder thing.
Yeah.
Mary, can we reproduce Silicon Valley into the center of Chicago?
We're starting to see
Can
this
we try?
trend. We can try. We're starting to see these co-working spaces, flexible leases, that kind of space come into the Chicago loop in an environment where we do have more kind of Class A type of offices. So we are starting to see those kind of buildings occupy in the downtown area. Our organization is more focused on the outside, the exterior spaces whereby, you know, we can look at these underutilized spaces like Marie-Célie was talking about. We transformed a median, which is sort of in the middle of the road. It wasn't serving any function, and we transformed it into a public place for people to sit and eat and chat and that sort of thing. So we talk a lot about serendipity and how we can create spaces that help stimulate that type of innovation just by the pure fact of creating a space for you and I to sit down next to each other and collaborate ideas, and just by chance you and I might have you know, something to take forward in that way. So that's a big focus for us, is just looking at how we can better utilize the outside environment as we see people starting to come outside of their offices and use spaces in ways we've never seen before.
Thank you. Serendipity, yes, is the big word nowadays into when we talk about innovation. Marie-Célie, maybe as a conclusion, in addition of your position here in Paris La Défense, you are also president of the World Business District Network. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and what you want to do with this kind of network?
Well, as we can see, it's very interesting for us to exchange about all these issues, because we share the same issues, and we have the same problems, and we test different things, and I think it's really important for us to be able to talk about what we're doing, because that's globalization also. I mean, of course there are important cultural differences between CBDs in Tokyo, Beijing, Chicago or Paris, but there are also a lot of similarities, and the companies that we have, they are global, and the demands are pretty global also. So that's the first thing, is to share our experiences and to maybe to establish a more permanent link. That's a challenge that we have. You were talking about an application that you want to do for Moscow. We're thinking about that also. We're thinking about it for the business district of La Défense, to help people who work here and people who are outside to meet and to create business and relationship. But we want to do that also with the international business district network, because to be able to talk to each other more, you know, more fast and easily, because it's not so easy. We see with the language issues can be an issue. So that's something we're going to be doing in the next months. And to also talk about innovation, we are going to be opening, it's an example of what we can do. We're going to be opening in the next months here in La Défense a living lab in our offices of Paris La Défense, to welcome startups in our offices and to offer them access to the data of Paris La Défense, and to offer them possibility to experiment on La Défense area their solutions. And those startups, they will be in our offices, but I think they will be also very interested to access to the international network, because we know that the startups, when they find something that works, they grow international immediately. And so, and it can be difficult for them to find the good contact in Montreal or elsewhere. And I think the international network can be very useful for that also.
Thank you, everybody. Once again, we were really pleased and really honored to have you today here in La Défense. You have the rest of the day to enjoy La Défense and to enjoy Paris also. So I hope we will have you back in the coming month, in the coming year, within the frame of the World Business District Network that Marie-Célie just talked about. Once again, thank you, everybody. Maybe if you have some question in the audience. Question?
I think
no?
People must be very hungry.
Yeah, I guess so. So thanks everybody, and now the lunch is open. Thank you very much.